Welcome back to another Myth-Busting AMA. There's been a lot of talk about protein intake recently on the social media platforms, and several of my podcasts have been addressing it. But as usual, I'm getting these questions on a very regular basis from my patient population. So many of you know I do a lot of nutrition medicine, I do a lot of sports medicine, and a lot of my patients are coming in with concerns about health span, lifespan, longevity, frailty, and they just want to be better. In their aging years, they want to have more strength, they want to have more endurance, they want to be able to play with their grandkids or travel or whatever it is that they've decided they want to do in their older years, and they want to have the energy and stamina and physical strength to do this. So usually the conversation turns to protein intake and the amount of protein intake you need in the day and why this is important. So as usual, the myth is that the RDA, recommended daily allowance for protein intake, is considered optimal. And that RDA is currently at 0.8 grams per kilogram per day of protein intake. So for an average 200-pound person, I'm really estimating the math here, I'm not doing the actual math, but for an average 200-pound person, that's about 80 grams per day. So the consensus in the scientific world is that that is woefully, terribly inadequate for a million reasons why. That is not the right number. And as most people know, I'm always recommending at least 50% higher than that. 1.2 grams per kilo per day is the minimum expected protein intake to maintain stability, not improve your health, but maintain the bare minimum. So what do you need to be even better than that to maintain your muscle strength? If you are an active adult, it's going to be closer to 1.6 grams per kilo per day. And if you're trying to work out or you're trying to rebuild muscle mass, if you're trying to improve your strength and your training, or even just trying to not, fall behind if you've had like a surgery or if you've had another event that's caused you to lose strength or lose mobility, you're going to need to be closer to 2 grams per kilo per day. So for an average 200-pound person, that's 200 grams of protein a day. So yes, that's a lot of food. That's why a lot of people supplement with protein powder. But I just want to make it very clear that what you believe that you've been told about protein intake is not true. And I couldn't summarize this any better than this 30-second, PSA, public service announcement. But if you really want to hear like the scientists talk about it, the lowdown, where I'm getting my information from, and you want to get actual access to the studies that have support this information, I cannot recommend enough episode number 369 from Peter Attia's Drive, where he interviews Rhonda Patrick, and they talk about this in great detail. And it is probably the best summary I've ever come across as to why what you believe you need from a protein intake perspective is wrong, and why you need to be eating more protein, taking in more protein. And even episode 368 before this episode covers a lot of the myths around why you may believe incorrectly about your protein intake needs.